Hello, hello, and welcome to the Atlanta Innovation Studio, being brought to you live from Venture Atlanta. So thrilled to have two Atlanta icons here today with us, Bain of PrimeRevenue, and
Jenn Graham.
Jenn Graham of Inclusive. I'm sorry, it's been such a long day. It's so great to have y'all here, and we're experiencing so kinds of great things happening at Venture Atlanta. Excited to dive into y'all's work. So since we are at Venture Atlanta and you're both Atlanta companies, let's just have a moment about why are you starting your company in Atlanta? Why do you find Atlanta a good place to build your particular business? And let's start with you, PJ, because you're a global company and you chose this city.
Well, a few reasons. First of all, PrimeRevenue is a financial technology business. We're at the epicenter of the world of financial technology here in Atlanta. Atlanta is an incredibly diverse city, fantastic schools from Georgia Tech to Kennesaw State to Georgia State to Atlanta University, Clark, Atlanta Spelman, Morehouse, just great access to talent. It's a great place that's well known around the world for innovation, startup, financial technology. It's a great place for our international clients. About half of our revenue is outside of the U.S., global corporations.
Wow.
So we need to go visit them and they need to come visit us. And the Atlanta airport is a great place to do it, and it's a fun city for people to visit from around the country and around the world. And then the startup community is incredibly supportive. So regardless of what we need, whether it's collaboration between CEOs, whether it's working on how we can find a better way to have social interaction with our employees in a pandemic world, or whatever it may be, the community here is just absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful. And Jenn Graham of Inclusive, let's hear about you and quick introduction of your company and why you chose Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, Inclusive is an online platform that brings people together for conversations that matter, and is a social impact company that is focused on really raising the level of consciousness around important issues. We couldn't imagine a better place than Atlanta as like the birthplace of social innovation, and the King Center and the history and the rise of just even the black tech community here. It's just been so incredible. So we feel that at the intersection of all of the amazing corporations that are here that are doing good work, and the local ecosystem that has been built for entrepreneurs like myself, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I love that you've kind of taken on Atlanta being the home of social justice, and really the business community has always been a leader in that in Atlanta, and kind of taking it to a whole nother level. And before we met today, y'all were talking about a project that you did together. So just tell the world a little bit about that with the Bernice Center, or Bernice King, and the kind of beloved group of work that y'all did.
So I'll start because I know Jenn is very humble, and I'll brag on
You'll
Jenn
brag
a
on
little
her.
bit. Yeah.
Good.
So Dr. Bernice King, the CEO of the King Center, was actually a classmate of mine in Leadership Atlanta, and a number of our classmates were helping to support her in an initiative that she has launched that is really touching lives and helping to facilitate conversations all over the world, called the Beloved Community Talks that are run through the King Center. And so I was working with a group of our classmates supporting Bernice in that effort, and we were introduced to Jenn's company to help facilitate a number of conversations on the heels of the social injustice and racial inequities that occurred over the course of last summer in 2020 around George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks and Ahmaud Arbery. And one of the things that we were trying to do is, it was actually companies as well as workers in the social justice arena that were coming together and trying to facilitate conversations that probably wouldn't occur. So putting people in a room, in a virtual room, around a dinner, the concept of having a dinner, to be able to have a structured conversation around race, racial equity, and where biases may exist that are completely blind to the people that may have those. And through that effort, where we were introduced to the King Center, in that one instance, we were able to bring together over 500 people to be able to have those conversations.
Amazing.
That were largely strangers that had never met each other before. And I facilitated a couple of those dinners, and I keep in touch with those strangers, and they're not strangers anymore.
That's great.
And that's how you sort of make progress, is you bring people together, and that's what Inclusive does.
So talk a little bit about what those dinners looked like, Jenn. I mean, what is an example of those conversations?
Wow, I would say, mean, an example, we've been working with the King Center since 2018.
Okay.
And the Bridging the Racial Divide is an example of one of my most beloved conversation topics, and it's actually the most popular on our site, and it's available for free for anybody to host or
I've
attend.
attended several. Yes, they're wonderful.
And I think the experience is, I mean, we really want to keep it quite intimate, so we recommend 6 to 10 people to allow everyone to feel heard and to be able to express and share their lived experience or their own perspectives or the first time of understanding race. And these conversations naturally progress into kind of the shared challenges and the realities and struggles that we're facing when it comes to the topics. But then it ends with hope and action. And we really, the whole sole purpose, our original name of Civic Dinners was really all about finding that personal power and the civic responsibility and personal responsibility of taking action to help move these issues forward. And that everybody has a role to play.
And you found that Atlanta has a pretty good appetite for that?
Yes, we've hosted, I mean, we've had 20,000 people participate around the world.
Wow.
With the majority we've been home, and we've been based in Atlanta for 5 years and continue to grow. We've had clients like Coca-Cola that came to us to launch a national conversation series on social justice. They selected 6 topics from our library: belonging, allyship, unconscious bias, inclusive leadership, like all of the core essentials, and made it available to the entire country. I mean, 5,000 people register, and
that's amazing.
So sold out in a week, and so that's just the beginning of our partnerships with incredible companies here in Atlanta that are home-based global companies, and we've also started to work with nonprofits, local SMBs, startups, communities, and alumni associations and groups. But even universities like Emory being home, they're one of our long-term clients as well, being not only bringing students together, but also alumni and faculty for conversations on a wide range of issues.
That's awesome. And clearly you pivoted to the virtual world, and it worked out great.
Whew,
right?
It did, yes. We're excited. Nothing can replace the magic that happens in person.
Right.
Passing bread and sharing a bottle of wine, but thankfully through video, we have been able to maintain the intimacy and the connection that happens, because like you said, what really matters is the aha moments that happen when you meet people with different backgrounds and lived experiences. It changes you and your perspective, and then you keep those relationships. I had someone approach me who was like, "Hey, Jenn, I was at your house 3 years ago," and it was like,
wow,
yeah. I mean, it's just like when someone comes into your home, and you become part of family too. So we're excited to go back in person and start having these again in real life. And whether companies or universities want to host it in a restaurant or in a private residence or even in offices, it's really important to create space for these conversations.
Absolutely, I love it, and I love that you're still enjoying some of the partnerships that you made and friends that you made in Atlanta. So that's such a huge thing. I think Atlanta has such a great community of collaboration and co-opetition, as we call it, right?
The Atlanta way.
People helping people. It is the Atlanta way. So on not quite such a heartwarming topic, but you are in the supply chain business, and we of course have to ask about the chaos. So just give us a couple seconds about what we can expect or look forward to, or how you're approaching the supply chain chaos.
So I mean, it can be heartwarming, and I think it represents a lot of opportunity, especially for Atlanta. Atlanta is known for a few very core sort of technology sectors, and it is absolutely fantastic. We've had multiple unicorns in fintech, and we've had multiple unicorns in supply chain.
Yeah.
And I was actually on another webinar earlier this morning talking about global supply chains and the volatility that's occurring there. And there is absolutely no doubt there is a tremendous amount of volatility in global supply chains. And somebody asked, when are we going to go back to normal? And we're at normal.
Yeah. Right. This is the new normal.
We are not going to go back to where we were before. I think the clients that we support, we have clients that are doing absolutely fantastic. They're probably making more money and generating more profits today than they would have even thought possible 18 months ago. We have clients that are really struggling now, and the clients that are doing the difference between those two, the clients that are doing really well today are clients that were very specific and intentional about going into the pandemic, being entrepreneurial, saying we don't know what's going to happen, we're going to communicate exception well. The same thing that Jen was just talking about, social issues. That's what entrepreneurship and innovation is all about. You have to talk to people, you have to understand what's going on, you have to be transparent, and you have to be prepared to change the organization and go through transformational things to be able to adopt to whatever the new normal is. So I don't think that there's a better place to be for the next 10 years or so because of supply chain. Because of the volatility, the lessons learned through the pandemic, I think one of the things that every one of our clients that has global supply chains, largest supply chains in the world, are going to be re-engineering and redesigning what their supply chains look like. And that represents tremendous opportunity for cities like Atlanta that are at the nexus of finance, the nexus of supply chain, and are very international cities. Globalization is not, we're not going to go backwards.
Right.
We're not going to close borders. We're not going to shut the world down. Globalization is going to continue to accelerate at a pace that you can't imagine. And as we rationalize supply chains, redesign supply chains based on the lessons learned over the last 2 years, that's going to take a long time, and it represents tremendous innovation entrepreneur opportunities within the supply chain, for sure.
Yeah, and globalization takes diverse teams to be successful, right?
Yeah.
And y'all both have such a huge part in building those diverse teams in Atlanta, and we've got such diverse talent in Atlanta that's another big plus that I think. So
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I've been in the startup community in Atlanta for 25 years at this point, and it's a competitive differentiator for businesses started in Atlanta because of the availability of diverse talent. And when you bring together that diverse talent, people from different backgrounds, people that have different perspectives, when you get all of those people into a room on a common vision, you're going to come up with better answers than everybody in the room that has the same vanilla experience, all agreeing with what you're going to do. That's a competitive differentiator Atlanta has that doesn't exist in Boston, New York, San Francisco, Austin. And I think we need to be very proud of that.
Yeah, I agree. And then helping everyone understand one another. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, and I think there's like diversity, and then there's inclusion, and I think
Right.
that's why the DE and I, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But inclusion is really making sure that every voice can be heard. And,
Right.
And again, like what we've seen is that inclusive environments actually bring in way more revenue. On average, 40% more revenue. Have attract and retain the best talent.
That's
because
great.
People want to be part of cultures that listen to everybody, not just those in the highest ranks. And then they have more resilient and innovative teams, which innovation is the new normal. Like in order to just live and nothing is constant anymore. The only constant is change. So you have to be nimble enough and constantly be open and willing to listen. And I think that's there's been a shift in how companies really operate. It's less monologue, less directive orders, and more dialogue, listening with customers, getting feedback, and being able to change and pivot on a dime based on the needs have changed. We've even witnessed that ourselves, having to respond and pivot virtually when COVID happened is the first kind of resilience thing that we had to demonstrate and do. But then how the needs have changed even in the last 18 months in the world of COVID, and how we have altered to fit the needs of our customers and changed our product offerings.
Diversity in a whole other way, diversity of offerings. So Jenn Graham of Inclusive, PJ Bain of PrimeRevenue, thank y'all so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll have you on the next Digital Innovation Studio, and we look forward to watching y'all's businesses explode.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for all you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.